Given the continued onslaught on voting rights and the Republican Party's eagerness to whitewash the events of January 6th, more than 100 scholars who study democracy for a living have issued a frantic warning. They write that anti-voting initiatives are transforming several states into political systems that no longer meet the minimum conditions for free and fair elections. Hence, our entire democracy is now at risk. And time is not on democracy's side, given how Minority Leader Mitch McConnell has vowed to block the Biden administration at every step. Another hurdle? The 8 or so Democratic senators, including Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who are so far refusing to touch the Jim Crow relic, the filibuster, even to save American democracy. And who better to talk about the state of American politics than my friend and former colleague, Chris Matthews, who has a new sweeping new memoir about his life in and out of politics. The book is called This Country, and it is out today. Chris Matthews joins me now. Christopher, so good to see you, sir.
Well, Joy, I'm glad to see you in that seat. You've certainly earned it. And when I left, I'm glad you came. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I spent my life, it's been the glory and the chance of my life has been on the inside of politics. I've been on the inside, flying around Air Force One with a president, fighting for his life politically. I work with the Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill, every morning with him. And I love American democracy. And I've seen it at its best. I've seen deals being made in the best sense. And I've seen something terrible happening lately. And it's and I saw, you did, you weren't as old as me, to see firsthand that people fighting to bring down the Berlin Wall so they could have votes in Germany, so they could actually vote for democracy, or to see apartheid torn down by an election in South Africa. I was there with Archbishop Tutu when he got the vote for the first time at the age of 62. He yelled, "Yippee, I'm voting." You have to treasure this democracy. Maybe the Democratic Party should change its name to Democratic Party lowercase. This is the party that believes in democracy. Believes in democracy.
Well, Chris, I got to ask you, because you did this biography and you went through all of these jobs. One job you left out, and it is on page 83 of your book. It is you also worked as a Capitol Police officer. And I did want to ask you, what was your reaction as somebody who worked on that Capitol, not just working for the Speaker at that level, but working as a Capitol Police officer? What was your visceral reaction to that insurrection on January 6th?
I felt violated. I felt the place I'd worked and people I worked with devoted their lives to, including the police officers, and to see these people come in there and basically massacre the place. To desecrate is a good word. It's a religious term, but it's appropriate here. They wanted to desecrate it. They wanted to climb on ceilings and put up signs, and they wanted to wear stupid costumes and act like crazy people to show their content. And they were looking for human beings. And God knows what they would have done if they got those human beings, including Mike Pence, Mr. Vice President. They were looking for you. And they were looking for the Speaker. And they were looking to do what with? Were they going to tar and feather them? Were they going to kill them? Were they going to make fun of them? What were they going to do? They were looking for them, and it was the police officers in the end and the staff people that got them out of danger. And I'm telling you, that's a scary thing. And then I hear about a high-ranking general who took the oath of this Constitution, talking about, I don't know when he's going to explain himself. I don't know how to explain using the word should in the same preposition with military coup. What are you talking about? And they were cheering what they thought he meant and what he probably did mean. And this is what's really scary. Nobody was shocked by what Michael Flynn said the other day. Nobody was shocked. This is a continuum. And one advantage of being away from daily television, being on it and having to talk every day about what happened that day, like I was in the Peace Corps in Africa, you see a pattern developing. I'm in the Peace Corps in Africa, and I'm watching the bitterness grow at home against the Vietnam War. You can sense it by catching the dots on the screen. What are the dots on the screen in the last several months? Well, you had a president who said a previous president was an illegal immigrant. He was not president. He couldn't be. He was here illegally. He snuck in the country. An absurd, awful, racist comment. And then you have a president, former president now, thankfully, who calls this president illegal, who says he's not president. He's got 2/3 of the Republican Party, the party of Lincoln, saying that Joe Biden's not president. It has gotten to be worse, and it's worse. And they go from relying on the Electoral College because they can't get a popular vote. They lost the popular vote in 2016 by almost 4 million. They lost it again in 2020. They think it's cute to win by the Electoral College. Of course, it's constitutional, but now they don't even believe in the Electoral College. Trump doesn't even believe he lost in the Electoral College. You know, democracy, as Jefferson taught us, with all Jefferson's faults, slavery and the rest, he did give us all men are created equal. He did give us a goal, ironically, a goal.
Yeah.
And this crowd doesn't understand democracy. If you ask the average Republican who likes Trump, do you really want the majority to rule in this country? Simple question.
Yeah.
Including minorities. Do you think the majority of American citizens should rule this country? A simple democratic vote question. Do you think they're going to say yes? No, they're going to say, let's reduce the number of minority voters. Let's reduce the number of young voters, too, while we're at it. And, you know, you've been in politics, and you've fought it more as much as I have, despite being different ages. And I got to tell you, what was the biggest goal of our lives? Get out the vote.
Right.
We were thrilled for people to vote. We begged them for months on this network, begged people for months before each election, get out and vote, vote, vote. We said it to everybody. If you're whatever, you're a conservative, whatever, get out there and vote. We wanted everybody to vote. And then they voted and they said it doesn't count.
Yeah.
In the 2020 election. It doesn't count. Our guy lost. And by the way, Trump knows he lost. He lost by 4 million votes. He lost the Electoral College. He lost in the same states he happened to squeak in. In 2016, he lost Pennsylvania. He lost Wisconsin. He lost Michigan. I'm sorry, Mr. President. You're not Mr. President anymore. And you got to wake up. And,
let me ask you this.
You were talking about that Texas guy. I love this guy down there, Senator Chris. The thing is, Democrats have gotten to be better politicians. I mean, I got to tell you, I'm doing bragging right now, like I did in the book. You know what I did when the Republican leader opposed our infrastructure bill back in 1982, right before an election? Well, he said it was a bunch of big spending, leaf-raking jobs, the thing they always say. So I called up the chief engineer of his hometown, Peoria, Illinois. And I asked the chief engineer, who happened to be a Democrat, which is my luck, and I said, give me the name of all the bridges below safety standards in that Republican leader's district, all the dangerous bridges. Give me all the dangerous. He gave me the list of the addresses, the names of the bridges. Tip O'Neill got down on the floor of the House and listed all the dangerous bridges in the home district of the Republican leader. And he was scared to hell. He went racing to the back of the farm. We won that vote. We won 26 seats in the next election. Why don't the Democrats go to Kentucky and count the bridges below safety standards? Why don't they go out
Chris,
there?
hold on, because I don't think that here's the problem. I'm not sure that would work. I'm not sure that would work. And I do want to ask you about this because when you talk about stuff like that and the way that you used to be able to achieve bipartisanship by cajoling people, you know, with infrastructure pressure or scaring people, it doesn't work anymore. This is the 1-year anniversary of Donald Trump holding up the Bible, pretending to be a Christian. Christians are completely impervious to it. People like Mitch McConnell don't care about bridges in Kentucky. What they care about is power for Mitch McConnell. So I wonder, would they can see the QAnon thing just like you can see it and I can see it. What do you think is happening with them and with people like Joe Manchin who are saying, we don't care, we just won't change?
You've had more recent experience for this crowd, but I got to tell you, usually local politicians think all politics is local. And when they hear that the school bus at 3 o'clock this afternoon is going running across that dangerous bridge, they get some calls from the parents. And I do think that's how you get the people. You get them where they're at home, and then they say, this isn't about ideology or left versus right. Are you going to fix that damn bridge or not? Are you going to fix it? Because if anything happens to that bridge, it's your fault. So I think old politics does work sometimes if you get them. I don't know what the life of Kevin McCarthy embarrasses me. He embarrasses me because I think having become leader, he is capable of leading, at least conceptually. But the great thing about Reagan, and this is an odd thing to say for me, and the great thing about Tip O'Neill is when they led, they led. And if they said, let's do this thing, let's fix Social Security for good, their people followed. Is Kevin McCarthy a leader or a follower? And I think that's a question. Why don't they pick leaders, the lead Republicans? It seems like a smart move, but they don't want to do it.
Well, what about Joe Manchin? If you were Chuck Schumer right now, what do you think you could say to somebody like Manchin who loves the filibuster more than he apparently loves democracy?
Well, you're being optimistic here. I think I caught you as an optimist here. Do you think he and Sinema of Arizona are the only two that aren't against getting rid of the
filibuster? Of course not.
Are you
they're standing
lately?
Oh, no, I think they are standing in front of at least 9 other, there's at least 9 of them, and they're letting Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin stand out in front and take all of the bullets. I think that's pretty clear. They're just covering for other people. But then what
here's the question. Okay, ask this. You got voting rights coming up. It has to be passed by legislation. And under the current law, you have to get a cloture for it. A filibuster could kill it. You know you have to do police reform. You have to do guns. What else? You got to do infrastructure. You got to do, except you might be able to get infrastructure without without getting closer, without getting rid of the filibuster. But everything that Biden has been talking about needs 60 votes right now, unless you get rid of the filibuster. Are you willing to go to the next voters' polls next November with nothing? Because that is also Mitch McConnell's goal. He wants the Democrats to get nothing done. That's why he's using the filibuster, so that he can go to the regular middle of the road, deciding voter next November and say the following: crime's up, inflation's up, the border's not under control. He wants the old Republican trick of 3 issues, all about your opponent, all negative, with nothing else to talk about. That's what they want. And if they get that, they'll get that if we have no program. If there's no agenda that's met, there's nothing passed. What's Biden going to say? Well, we're not so bad on inflation. We're not so bad on crime. We're not so bad on the border. It's all playing defense. You can't win playing defense. You got to pass stuff. So far, COVID relief was very smart. The economy, if it's coming back, and it is coming back, it's because of that. If they get a real instruction of construction, you know what? I don't like the word infrastructure. I like the word construction. Build. Yeah. As a guy in New York used to say, replace the smell of decay with the smell of construction.
With the smell of construction. A classic Chris Matthews saying. So we got a little bit of time left. I definitely want to get in a final bit about the book. You talk about everything in the book, including, leaving here, which, was not what you were originally planning on doing. But tell me about that. Tell me about what what is sort of the upshot of that for you?
Well, the reality, the upshot is I've had a lot of people come up and say, I miss you personally. They like you, but they miss. We had good company together. And they also say things like the way you didn't let them get away with anything, which I love too. I was tough. But I think the reason, I know the reason I left it. Somebody reported that I complimented somebody. Actually, I'm going to use the right words here. I remarked on somebody's appearance in the makeup room. And I shouldn't have done that. Nobody has to come defend me. And by the way, I've kept all my friends, but nobody needs to defend me. I did something wrong. So I'm going to move on from that. I accept it. I took ownership of it, using a nice modern phrase. I took complete ownership. I did not deny it. I lost my show over it. That's it. So that's the truth. The good news is I've never had in my life 2 years to actually sit down and write about my 70 years, which is to talk about an incredible life I've been so lucky to have, to be on the inside of American politics, looking out. From Air Force One with Jimmy Carter, who I really love, fighting for his life against Reagan, Tip O'Neill fighting against Reagan from the back room every day, being at the Berlin Wall on the communist side when the wall was coming down, and having a young guy said to me, when I asked him, what does freedom mean to you? Was ist Freiheit? You know what he said? Talking to you. Wow. Freedom is great. Democracy is great. And being with Archbishop Tutu, the great leader in South Africa, walking with him to the polls the first time in his life, at the age of 62, he gets to vote. It was an amazing experience to work within democracy and to see parts of the world fighting for democracy, like Nelson Mandela, and bringing down the Berlin Wall. I got to see it all in one lifetime. I want to share with the people that watch my show so faithfully all those years. That's my...
And you do a brilliant job. Here's my copy, my autograph copy. I'm so glad.
And you said it's a love letter to the American people, American government. You're so right. Thank you.
Hey, listen, let me tell you something. Yes, my blurb is on the back because one of the friends that you kept is me. And I'm so grateful for that, Chris. You gave me a break back before anybody else in this business. I love you, my friend. I thank you so much for coming on tonight. This book is great, y'all. You really should check it out. You'll learn a lot. We share a love of the continent, of South African history, and you will just learn a lot about Chris. It is a fantastic book. Chris, thank you, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Joy Reid, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The book is here. It's called This Country. You should check it out. Still ahead.